is the WHMP Morning News with Bob Flaherty and Denise.
We welcome back John Riley, candidate for the mayor of Northampton. Morning.
Good morning, Bob. Thanks for having me back. I enjoyed being with you the last time I was here, and as we're getting closer to the election, I appreciate you putting me on. And
Close is right. We got Tuesday. My God,
yeah,
that came across pretty fast, huh?
It was a long campaign. It's been I've been campaigning for 3 or 4 months now, easily. We have to get through the weekend, and then Tuesday it's energizing. It's all about energizing your voters, getting them to vote. Tuesday, November 7th, the polls are open all day. I believe it's 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We'll be sitting around waiting for the results. I think those usually come in about 10 o'clock that night. And either we'll be celebrating or we'll be making plans to go to work the next day.
We'll be broadcasting, of course. We'll be giving the returns. We'll be broadcasting live right here with Chris Collins, Bill Newman, myself, and Denise will be out on the road, and we'll be talking about not only this race, but the East Hampton race, the Holyoke race, Greenfield, and everything else. So we'll be we'll be doing coverage as it happens right here on WHMP. The debate that we carried the other night, NCTV, of course, telecast the debate. We broadcast it from the NCTV feed. That was a pretty good. I listened to it. I didn't watch it. I listened to it. Very good debate. Do you think this stuff is good? Do you think a debate like that is good for voters, good for the city?
I think it was fun. I enjoyed it. I think David probably enjoyed it. He's a political person, and I think he enjoys having a challenger, enjoying having the debate. I think it was really good for the city. I don't think there is enough debate. That's been my issue since the beginning, that we don't have enough questioning of policies here in town. The Gazette doesn't really do a lot of heavy-duty investigative reporting. The city council, up until just recently, was happy to go along with most of the mayor's policies. I was really happy to see the city council stand up and take a stand against surveillance cameras downtown and the idea of having signs all over town, "You are being watched." Talk about scaring a business out of town. That would have been crazy. But no, the debate was, I think, a service to our city. We had a good turnout at JFK. I've heard a lot of positive comments that people really appreciated that the debate was put on. It's kind of strange that it was put on just, about a week before the election. Other towns have been having debates for months. East Hampton seems to be the hot issue. It's on the front page every day.
Right.
Northampton, the Gazette is published in Northampton, and we just barely made the front page.
What are some of the issues? Because it was a wide-ranging discussion the other night with the debate. What are some of the things that you thought might have been missing? Some of the questions that should have been asked?
Well, I don't think we got into school inclusion. That's a thorny issue. It cuts both ways. I do understand the desire to include all students. There is a growing number of students with, we call them disabilities, that need to be included in classes. But I don't think the city was quite ready for it. Didn't have the funding, kind of jumped the gun. Might have been a little bit to, preclude the fiscal cliff that everybody keeps talking about, and not funding it well enough. I was really disappointed to see the city lay off 2 librarians, 2 school librarians. We all know how important books are, me being a bookseller, I'm not just blowing my own horn. But young kids, it's a proven fact that kids need books. It is an indicator of their future success. And now libraries are a safe room for kids that are freaking out in class to go to. It's not a study learning situation, taking away 2 librarians. I think that was a very, very poor decision. That didn't come up in the debate. I'm happy to bring it up now.
John Riley is here, candidate for the mayor of Northampton, running against the incumbent David Narkowitz. You say that there's a lack of vision. There's not a definable vision for the city. What would be yours?
I do believe that David is a good manager. I don't think he has a long-term vision for where Northampton should head. I do. I've lived here 42 years. I've been involved in the downtown and in the city and in the schools and the libraries for that whole length of time. I think I laid it out fairly clearly in the Gazette this morning that I really think we should be building more on our cultural and historical assets. I lived in Italy for 2 years. I saw what Italian cities could do to keep their tourism going, to keep their cities alive based on their history, drawing tourists. We already have a huge international visitor population because of the colleges. We are a world city because of UMass, Smith, Mount Holyoke, Hampshire, Amherst College. We have an amazing number of international visitors to this area. We need to draw them to Northampton. We need to draw people from Tanglewood, Massamoka, Simon's,
Simon's Rock.
Simon's Rock, well, from all the cultural institutions here in Western Mass, including the Berkshires. We need those international tourists. We need them to keep our city alive. And by growing our historical presence, I think we could draw more people. Sylvia Plath would be a big draw. I was just up at the archives at Smith the other day. They have an incredible collection of her stuff. It's open to the
There are
public.
typewriters there too, isn't it?
I believe
Sylvia's
so.
typewriters,
Her
right?
letters, her diaries, those are open to the public. Nobody knows about that. I live here in town. I just recently knew that you could go in there as a member of the public and read those or Virginia Woolf's items that they have there. An incredible collection. Plus our own public libraries. Forbes Library has the diary of Jonathan Edwards, has letters of Daniel Shays. The Coolidge Museum could be grown to include history of Prohibition, the Depression, women's voting rights, instead of just Coolidge's career. I think that would draw more people. We could have more of museums about our own history, whether it's industrial history. The third biggest museum in New York City is the Tenement Museum. People want to see how people lived back then. We were an industrial city. We were a factory city. Let's show people what it was like to live here back in those days. It would be a huge draw.
A lot of voters want to know what the hell you're going to do for me, and a lot of complaints, and this is legitimate stuff. This misery, this traffic jam that starts every day and goes way the hell up on Bridge Road, and then you got to go down on Damon Road. It takes an hour and a half, and then it spills into the Coolidge Bridge and exit 19, and people just wring their hands with this. What are we going to do about this? I know this came up in the debate the other night, but what would be your scheme to alleviate some of this? Because it's absolute misery, it being in that line of traffic.
I feel people's pain because I go over to Amherst pretty much every day. I've got business that calls me over there. I remember when Damon Road was a country road, a little two-lane, nothing. I also remember when Route 9 was, but that's really, we're going back in time. I don't think that a rotary at the intersection of 91, Coolidge Bridge, and Route 9 is going to work. That's a huge volume of traffic. It's only going to keep growing.
There is a distinct difference between a rotary. Now I remember the rotary, the one that sticks out in my mind is the one on the Jamaica Way, where if you're coming from a Fenway Park game, you come to Jamaica Way, you do take your life in your hands, you have to make the sign of the cross. It's unbelievable to try to enter that rotary. A roundabout, which is what we have, the two of them here in Northampton, a roundabout's a little bit different thing, a little more benign thing, where you don't necessarily risk your life. Can a roundabout work in that area?
There is a distinction there, you're right. I don't think that would work either. You have these trucks coming down off the Coolidge Bridge, you have trucks coming off 91, and as I said, the traffic is only going to keep getting worse there. I think the key is to have lights that respond to the traffic more efficiently. Keep that traffic moving. Even if you had a traffic cop there that sees the line here and the line there and can keep those people moving.
Wouldn't that be something? I remember with the Mattapan Square where I grew up, with the cop would be out there on a platform with the big white gloves.
Well,
we're going to bring that back.
The real problem is 8 to 9 in the morning and 5 to 5:30 in the evening. Those are the crucial hours, the rush hours. Let's deal with the rush hour. Let's deal with getting lights that function efficiently. I don't think we need to rebuild that whole thing. It would be a nightmare, the rebuilding, and it would be even a bigger nightmare once it was done.
John Riley's with us, candidate for Mayor of Northampton. We'll take a break for sports and weather. More with John in a minute. John Riley is here, candidate for the Mayor of Northampton, running against the incumbent David Narkowitz. Voters always want to know about your family, your background, your credentials, things like that. Before we get into that, you lost a son to heroin a few years back. And this was a little bit before the epidemic, wasn't it?
Yeah, my son's name was Benjamin. He was a great kid, one of the funniest, most humorous, intelligent, and athletic kids you would ever want to run across. Very tall, played sports. Got sucked into heroin by an older friend who turned him and his friend on one evening in downtown Northampton. He was a pusher, the guy that got him hooked. That was his job, was to go out and get kids hooked. That's a huge problem. You can't keep your heroin business going unless you have new customers, and those customers are always going away, so you always need fresh customers. So this older kid who my friend trusted turned him onto heroin, and it was all downhill after that. When we found out about it, he had maybe used 6 times. We thought that we could catch it in time. We thought that getting him up to Brattleboro, getting him into to rehab was going to work. It was a nightmare of a couple of years, in and out and in and out. And towards the end, we had hope that he was going to make it. And you're always on the edge. You never know if they're going to make it or not. And he didn't. It was a very, very sad moment in our lives.
Yeah, my God, I can relate. I mean, we've had some very, very, in our family, the same thing where luckily, my son seems to be doing very well right now. But my God, the same thing that up and down and up and down and up and down. And you never
that age
every day you think it's going to be the last.
18, 19, 20-year-old kids, their brains haven't fully developed. They're making pretty wild choices, and I really think that to combat this, parents really need to be aware of what their kids are doing, telltale signs, and be educated to catch it as soon as possible, to know who your kids' friends are and what they're doing and who their parents are. Really extend your knowledge of what your kid is doing. That's the only way you're going to know.
Do you have any strategies yourself as to everybody asks candidates this all the time? What are you going to do about this epidemic right now?
It keeps getting worse, doesn't it? It keeps spreading. It is tied into so many things. Mental health is being a huge one. Emotional health, the economy, I think, ties into it. If you look demographically at where this epidemic is hitting, it's in a lot of poor communities. That was historically true, actually, with black communities being the first ones to be hit. They were the canary in the coal mine, and they were ignored. We didn't pay enough attention to what was going on in black communities. Now, poor white communities are being hit very hard. You look at Ohio, you look at the Rust Belt. These are places that are getting hit. But it isn't just that. It's can happen anywhere. I think rehabilitation is key. We have to help people come back from the situation they're in. I think the Narcan is great, but again, that's closing the barn door after the horse has gotten out. People will relapse 20, 30 times. You'll give them Narcan 20, 30 times and save their lives over and over again. We have to get to a point where we can catch people that are addicted and bring them back. Keep them from getting addicted in the first place is the first thing we want to do, absolutely. But once they are caught in this undertow, bring them back, full scale, economic, emotional, mental health backing. I think Northampton needs a rehab center, maybe working with Cooley Dick, so that our kids and older people as well don't get lost, don't fall through the cracks.
John Raleigh, you're of course the underdog in this race. What's it going to take to pull a victory out here?
I think we have a momentum going on right now. I didn't get the attention that I really wanted from either the newspapers or the media, but that goes with being an incumbent. You get all the attention. I have been able to get a lot of support recently. The cameras downtown were huge. The surveillance cameras. I was strongly against it. I spoke in front of the city council. I spoke elsewhere. The mayor's chosen chief of police backed it. I do not think that surveillance cameras will accomplish what the mayor thinks they will. I don't think it will stop stealing downtown, which was kind of the main reason to do it. That has gotten me a lot of support. And I've also built on, as I said, the school inclusion, I think is a huge issue with parents and teachers. And also the Forbes Library, attempt to take over Forbes Library has gotten resonance with a lot of people. They know I support libraries. They know I'm a book person. They know that that's a very strong issue for me, to support libraries both in the schools and in the public sphere. So I have a very strong base, not just a stormwater candidate anymore. In the period of time since I got started, I have been able to get more and more support. And I think by the time Tuesday rolls around, I'm going to have that one extra vote to win.
Remember, we'll be having coverage of the election, not just in Northampton, but East Hampton, Holyoke, and Greenfield as well. As November 7th, it's Tuesday, polls open, what, 7 a.m., don't they?
I think it's 8, but let's not misinform people.
Okay, yeah.
Let's make sure we know.
Because traditionally it was 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. I think is the traditional one. But anyway, if they open at 8, you'll be in line for an hour.
Right.
That's all right. John Riley, congratulations on a pretty spirited race, and good luck on Tuesday.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for having me on. I've really enjoyed coming to visit you.
Absolutely. Thank you, John. It is 7:58 in the morning on 96.9 WHMP.